The year was 2347, and humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for 43 years. In the eyes of the older alien races, humans were still babies. They had only learned to travel between stars a few generations ago. The ancient species looked at them with amusement. Some looked at them with hate. Most simply did not care about them at all. Commander Nathan Cole stood on the observation deck of a space station called Evergreen. The station floated in orbit around a small moon called Vethfor. The moon was rich with valuable minerals, and humans had built a colony there to mine them. Behind Nathan, 50,000 people lived their normal lives. There were miners who worked long shifts underground. There were engineers who kept the machines running. There were teachers who educated the children. There were families who had traveled 18 months from Earth to start a new life among the stars. Nathan watched the stars through the large window. He felt proud of what they had built here. Then the door behind him opened quickly, and Lieutenant Maria Santos ran onto the deck. Her face was pale with fear. "Sir, we just got a message from the Council flagship," she said. Her voice was shaking. "They are ordering us to leave this station within 6 hours." Nathan turned to face her. "Leave? Why would we leave?" "They are saying that Vethfor belongs to the Zora species. They claim we are breaking the sector agreement by being here." Nathan shook his head. "That makes no sense. We filed all the correct papers. The Council approved this colony. They gave us permission to be here." Before Maria could answer, the large screen on the wall came to life. A face appeared on it. The face belonged to High Arbiter Krolvash, a member of the Zorth species. His skin was gray and covered in small scales. His eyes were cold and empty. His thin mouth was curved in something that might have been a smile. "Human Commander," Krolvash said. His alien voice was translated by the computer so Nathan could understand. "The Galactic Council has found you guilty of breaking territorial law. We have reviewed your case and made our decision. Your colony no longer has the right to exist." Nathan stepped closer to the screen. "We have documents that prove our claim to this moon. Let me speak to the full council. Let me show them the evidence." "The council has already decided," Krolvash replied. "This message is being sent to every planet in the galaxy. Everyone is watching. This will be a lesson for all species who forget their place." Nathan felt his blood turn cold. "A lesson? What do you mean?" "Your species thinks too highly of itself. Humans act like they matter. They act like they deserve respect. Today, the galaxy will learn what happens to those who rise above their station." The screen split into many smaller images. Nathan could see views from all over the station. He could see the cafeteria where families were eating dinner. He could see the school where children were playing. He could see the hospital where doctors were treating patients. And outside the station, through the external cameras, he could see dozens of Council warships surrounding Evergreen. Their weapons were already glowing with power. "You cannot do this," Nathan said. His voice was steady, but inside he was screaming. "There are 50,000 people on this station. There are children here. There are innocent civilians who have done nothing wrong." Krolvash did not blink. His expression did not change. "Then perhaps your species should have chosen to stay on Earth where it belongs." Nathan spun around to face Maria. "Sound the alarm. Get everyone to the escape pods. Do it now." Maria ran to the control panel and pressed the emergency button. Alarms began to ring throughout the station. Red lights flashed in every corridor. People started running toward the escape pods, but they were confused and scared. Parents grabbed their children. Workers dropped their tools. Everyone was trying to reach safety, but there was not enough time. The first plasma beam hit the station's main power generator. The explosion was massive. Fire and metal flew through the residential area in seconds. The second beam hit the school. The third hit the hospital. The fourth hit the cafeteria. On screens across the galaxy, billions of beings watched as Evergreen Station was torn apart. The Council had made sure the broadcast was clear and loud. Every scream could be heard. Every explosion could be seen. The Zorath wanted the galaxy to witness what happened to species who did not know their place. Nathan was thrown against the wall by the force of an explosion. His ears were ringing. His vision was blurry. Through the smoke and fire, he could see Maria lying on the floor. She was not moving. Around him, the station was dying. He could hear the screams of his people through the communication system. Mothers calling for their children. Workers crying for help. Then, one by one, the voices went silent. The last thing Nathan saw before everything went dark was the cold face of Krelvosh on the screen. Watching the destruction with satisfaction. On Earth, in the city of Geneva, President Eleanor Price sat in a room deep underground. Around her were the most powerful military leaders on the planet. They were all watching the same broadcast. They had all seen the same horror. The room was completely silent, except for the soft sound of someone crying. A young assistant stood in the corner with tears running down her face. She had family on Evergreen. She would never see them again. When the broadcast finally ended, the screen showed the official seal of the Galactic Council. A message appeared saying that territorial law had been successfully enforced. The seal faded, and the screen went black. President Eleanor slowly stood up from her chair. Her hands were clasped together so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with something that the aliens would not have understood. It was not just anger. It was not just grief. It was something much older and much more dangerous. "Get me every admiral in the fleet," she said quietly. Her voice was soft but filled with ice. "And I want to know the name of every council member who voted for this. Every single one." One of her generals spoke up. "Madam President, what are we going to do?" Eleanor turned to look at him. "We are going to show them something they have forgotten. We are going to remind them what happens when you hurt humanity. We are going to teach them that humans protect their own." She walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at the room full of military leaders. "They wanted to teach us our place," she said. "Instead, they just made the biggest mistake in galactic history." 3 weeks passed after the massacre, and the galaxy waited to see what humanity would do. The Council expected anger. They expected protests. They expected humans to file official complaints through proper channels. They expected crying and begging and demands for apologies. What they got was silence. Earth went completely dark. All communication from human space stopped. Human ambassadors packed their bags and left their offices on alien worlds without saying a word. Human merchant ships turned around and flew back to Earth. Human tourists canceled their trips. Within days, there was not a single human anywhere in Council space. It was as if humanity had simply disappeared. On the Council homeworld of Vethra Prime, the alien leaders talked about what this meant. Ambassador Tethril of the Sindari Collective sat in a beautiful garden with Krelvosh, who had been promoted to Senior Arbiter as a reward for his role in the Evergreen Massacre. "The humans are sulking," Tethril said with a laugh. His voice sounded like wind chimes. "They are behaving like children who have been punished." Krelvosh nodded his scaled head. "They needed to learn their place. Now they understand. They will hide for a while, then they will come back and accept their position at the bottom of galactic society." "Perhaps we were too gentle with them," Tethril suggested. "We let them think they were important. We let them believe they mattered." "That mistake has been corrected," Krelvosh replied. "They know the truth now." Neither of them noticed when a tiny light flickered on the orbital defense station high above the planet. Neither of them noticed when it flickered again. Neither did anyone else. The humans had been very careful about that. 2 months after the massacre, humanity came back. Admiral Gregory Hayes sat in the command chair of a massive battleship called Retribution. The ship was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. It was fast and deadly, and covered in weapons that human engineers had been secretly building for 20 years. Around the Retribution, 47 more ships of the same class waited in the darkness between stars. Gregory was 54 years old. He had gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in the Earth fleet for 30 years. He had seen many things in that time, but nothing had prepared him for Evergreen. His younger sister had been a teacher on that station. Her 2 children, his nephew and niece, had been in her classroom when the plasma fire reached them. He had watched them die on the broadcast like everyone else. Now he sat in his chair and waited for his moment. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Commander Patricia Dunn, his second in command. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and sharp eyes. She had lost her husband on Evergreen. He had been an engineer. Gregory nodded slowly. "Open a channel to all frequencies. I want everyone in this sector to hear what I'm about to say." The communication officer, a young man named Kevin Brooks, worked his controls. "Channel open, sir. Broadcasting on all frequencies." Gregory stood up from his chair. He looked straight ahead, knowing that his words were being heard across dozens of star systems. "This is Admiral Gregory Hayes of the United Earth Space Command," he began. His voice was calm and clear. 47 days ago, the Galactic Council murdered 50,000 human civilians. They called it a demonstration. They broadcast the deaths of our men, women, and children to the entire galaxy for entertainment. He paused to let his words sink in. "We have come to show them a demonstration of our own. To every council member who voted for the Evergreen Massacre, hear me clearly. We know who you are. We know where you are. And we are coming for you." Across the galaxy, alarm bells started ringing on 17 different planets. Military commanders looked at their screens and saw human ships appearing from empty space. The new stealth technology worked perfectly. The humans had been hiding right next to their targets, waiting for the signal. "To the species who did not take part in this crime," Gregory continued, "we have no argument with you. Step aside, and you will not be harmed. But to those who voted for the death of our people, to those who watched our children burn and called it justice, listen carefully." His voice dropped lower, becoming almost a whisper. "Earth remembers, and Earth does not forgive." The channel closed. On the bridge of the Retribution, every officer sat in silence for a moment. Then Patricia spoke. "Sir, the Council is calling their defense fleets. They are preparing to fight." Gregory almost smiled. "Good. Let them come. Launch the first wave." The human ships moved forward like a wave of darkness. They were faster than anything the Council had seen before. Their weapons hit harder than anything the Council had faced before. And their crews fought with a cold anger that the older races could not understand. On Vethra Prime, Krelvosh received reports of the attack while sitting in his office. His scales turned pale as he read the numbers. Human ships were destroying Council forces at a rate of 10 to 1. Planets that should have been safe were suddenly under siege. Defense stations that had stood for centuries were being torn apart. "This is impossible," he said to his aide. "Humans do not have this technology. They do not have this many ships." "Apparently they do, Senior Arbiter," his aide replied nervously. "Where did they get them? How did they build them without us knowing?" The aide had no answer. Nobody did. For 43 years, humanity had played the role of the quiet newcomer. They had smiled and nodded and pretended to accept their low position. And all that time, they had been building. They had been preparing. They had been waiting. Krelvosh looked out his window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, human ships were getting closer. He had wanted to teach humanity a lesson. Instead, he had awakened something that had been sleeping. And now that something was coming for him. On the retribution. Gregory watched the tactical display as his fleet cut through the Council's defenses. They were ahead of schedule. The enemy was in chaos. Everything was going according to plan. Patricia walked up beside him. Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from several Council species. They are saying they did not vote for Evergreen. They want us to spare their ships. Gregory considered this for a moment. Check their claims against our intelligence. If they truly did not vote for the massacre, accept their surrender and let them go. We are not here to hurt the innocent. And those who did vote for it. Gregory's eyes grew cold. We take them alive, if we can. They will face human justice. But if they resist, if they try to run, if they refuse to answer for their crimes, then we do what we must. Patricia nodded. Understood, sir? The fleet continued forward. Behind them, Council space burned. Ahead of them, Vethra Prime waited. The reckoning had begun, and it would not stop until every person responsible for Evergreen had answered for what they had done. The Battle of Vethra Prime lasted 4 hours and 17 minutes. When it was over, the galaxy would never be the same again. The Council had gathered every ship they could find. Their combined fleet was 3 times larger than the human force. They had warships from 12 different species. They had commanders who had been fighting wars for longer than humanity had existed. They had weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop asteroids. None of it was enough. The human ships moved like ghosts through space. They appeared from nowhere, fired their weapons, and disappeared before the Council ships could target them. Their guns punched through shields that should have held. Their missiles found targets that should have been impossible to hit. And their crews worked together like parts of a single machine. On the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Gregory Hayes watched the battle unfold on his tactical display. Around him, his officers worked in calm silence. There was no panic. There was no fear. There was only a cold determination to finish what the Council had started. Enemy Formation Delta is breaking apart, Commander Patricia Dunn reported. They are trying to retreat. Let them go if they want to run, Gregory replied. Focus on the ships that are still fighting. Sir, I am getting reports from our ground teams. They are ready to launch as soon as we clear the orbital defenses. Gregory nodded. Good. How many platforms are still active? Patricia checked her screens. 7 platforms remain. 3 are requesting surrender. Accept the surrenders. Disable their weapons and move to the next target. On the other side of the battlefield, Krelvosh stood on the bridge of his personal flagship. Around him, his crew was in chaos. Officers were shouting conflicting orders. Alarms were ringing everywhere. The ship shook as another human weapon hit their shields. Get us out of here, Krelvosh ordered. Maximum speed toward open space. The humans have ships blocking every escape route, his captain replied. Fear was clear in his voice. Then find a route they have not blocked. Use the asteroid field. Use anything. I will not die at the hands of these insects. The flagship began to move, surrounded by a dozen escort ships. They pushed their engines as hard as they could, trying to reach the edge of the battle zone where they could jump to safety. Gregory saw the movement on his display. That is Krelvosh's ship. He is trying to escape. Patricia looked at the screen. Should I send pursuit ships? Yes. Gamma Group, intercept and disable. I want that ship captured intact. I want Krelvosh alive. Understood, Admiral. 5 human ships broke away from the main battle and raced after the fleeing flagship. They were faster than the Zorth vessels, and they caught up within minutes. The escort ships tried to fight, but they were outmatched. One by one, they were disabled, their engines destroyed, their weapons silenced. Krelvosh watched as his last line of defense fell apart. Charge the jump drive. We are leaving now. The drive needs 2 more minutes to charge, his engineer replied. We do not have 2 minutes. He was right. A human ship appeared directly in front of the flagship, blocking their path. Its weapons were pointed straight at the bridge. This is Captain Samuel Drake of the Earth vessel Vengeance, a human voice said over the communication channel. Senior Arbiter Krelvosh, you are under arrest for crimes against humanity. Tower down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Krelvosh stared at the screen with hatred in his eyes. You cannot arrest me. I have diplomatic immunity. I am a member of the Galactic Council. I am a member of the Galactic Council. I am a member of the Galactic Council. The Galactic Council's authority ended when you murdered 50,000 of our people. You will be taken to Earth to stand trial. You can come peacefully, or we can drag you out of that ship, piece by piece. The choice is yours. For a long moment, Krelvosh considered ordering his crew to fight. He considered dying with some dignity, rather than being captured by creatures he considered beneath him. But in the end, his desire to live was stronger than his pride. Stand down, he told his crew. Power off the weapons. On the planet below, the ground assault had begun. 20,000 human marines landed on Vethra Prime in the largest planetary invasion in galactic history. They moved through the streets of the Council capital with speed and precision. They knew exactly where to go. They knew exactly who they were looking for. Staff Sergeant Luis Ortega led his squad through the dark tunnels beneath the council chambers. Somewhere ahead, 3 of the arbiters who had voted for Evergreen were trying to escape. Intelligence said they were heading for a secret shuttle bay where a private ship was waiting. Movement ahead, whispered Corporal Danny Webb, who was at the front of the squad. Luis held up his hand, signaling everyone to stop. How many? 12 guards. Standard Council security. They are protecting the tunnel entrance. Luis checked his weapon. It was fully charged and ready. We go through them. Stay tight, watch your corners, and do not let anyone get past us. The squad moved forward like shadows. The council guards were well trained, but they were not prepared for what hit them. The humans attacked from 3 directions at once, overwhelming them in seconds. Some guards tried to surrender. They were allowed to live. The rest died quickly. Beyond the guards, the tunnel continued for another 100 meters before ending at a heavy metal door. Luis signaled 2 of his soldiers to breach it. They placed explosive charges and stepped back. The door blew open with a thundering boom. Inside, Luis found what he was looking for. 3 alien arbiters were huddled against the far wall of a small room. One was Zorth. One was Sindari. One was from a species Luis did not recognize. All 3 had voted yes when Krelvosh proposed the Evergreen Massacre. Please, the Sindari said. His name was Vethanol, according to the intelligence file. You do not understand. It was not our idea. Krelvosh proposed it. We just followed along. We did not think they would actually do it. Luis looked at him without any expression on his face. You voted to kill 50,000 people. Men, women, and children. You watched them die on live broadcast. And now you want me to feel sorry for you? We were only following procedure. It was politics. We did not mean for anyone to actually get hurt. Get up, Luis ordered. All 3 of you. You are coming with us. Where are you taking us? The Zoroth demanded. To Earth. You are going to stand in front of the families of the people you killed. You are going to look them in the eyes and explain why their loved ones had to die. And then you are going to accept whatever punishment the court decides you deserve. The 3 arbiters were handcuffed and led out of the tunnel. Around them, the city was falling under human control. Council forces were surrendering everywhere. The war was almost over. But for the people who had lost family on Evergreen, the war would never truly end. The pain would never fully heal. All they could hope for now was justice. And as Luis watched the three arbiters being loaded onto a transport ship, he knew that justice was exactly what they were going to get, above the planet. Admiral Gregory Hayes received word that all primary targets had been captured. 17 council members who had voted for Evergreen were now in human custody. The council fleet had been destroyed or scattered. Vethra Prime was under human control. "Sir," Patricia said quietly, "we did it. It is over." Gregory shook his head slowly. "No, this was just the beginning. Now comes the hard part. Now we have to show the galaxy that we are better than they are. We have to prove that humans believe in justice, not revenge." He turned away from the tactical display and looked out the window at the stars. "We are taking them home to stand trial. Real trials, with evidence and lawyers and juries. We are going to do this the right way. And when it is done, the galaxy will know exactly what kind of species humanity really is." 5 years had passed since the massacre Evergreen, and the galaxy looked very different now that the Galactic Council still existed. But it was no longer the powerful force it had once been. Human observers sat in every meeting, making sure that what happened to Evergreen could never happen again. Human ships patrolled the major trade routes, keeping the peace. And the new set of rules, called the Geneva Accords, protected civilian populations everywhere. Any species that broke these rules would face consequences from Earth and its allies. The older races grumbled about the changes, but they accepted them. They had seen what happened when humanity was pushed too far. They had watched the Battle of Vethra Prime. They had witnessed the trials. They knew that humans meant what they said. Admiral Gregory Hayes had retired from the military. After 35 years of service, he wanted something quieter. He bought a small farm in Montana, far from the cities and the noise. He spent his days taking care of his animals and growing vegetables. At night, he would sit on his porch and look up at the stars. Sometimes he thought about his sister and her children. Sometimes he thought about the battle he had led. Sometimes he thought about all the people who had died on both sides. He wondered if he had done the right thing. He wondered if there had been another way. But deep down, he knew the truth. The Council would never have changed without a fight. They would never have respected humanity without a demonstration of strength. The only language they understood was power. And humanity had spoken that language loudly enough to be heard across the galaxy. President Eleanor Price had served 2 terms and chosen not to run for a third. On her last day in office, she gave a farewell speech that was broadcast to every human world. "When I took this job, I never expected to lead our species through a war," she said. "I never expected to order soldiers into battle. I never expected to watch our enemies stand trial for murder. But life does not always give us what we expect." She paused and smiled sadly. "We faced a terrible choice after Evergreen. We could have become like our enemies. We could have burned their worlds and killed their innocent people. We could have proven that humans are just as cruel as anyone else. Instead, we chose a harder path. We chose justice over revenge. We chose trials over executions. We chose to be better than those who had hurt us." Her voice grew stronger. "That choice was not weakness. It was our greatest strength. The galaxy watched us capture war criminals and give them fair trials. They watched us punish the guilty and protect the innocent. They learned that humanity does not need to be cruel to be powerful. And because of that, we earned something more valuable than fear. We earned respect." On the moon of Veth 4, where the Evergreen colony had once stood, a memorial had been built. 50,000 names were carved into walls of black stone. The walls were arranged in a spiral that went down into the ground, like a wound in the earth. At the center, a flame burned day and night, visible from orbit. Maria Santos visited every year on the anniversary of the massacre. She was one of only 217 survivors. She had been in an escape pod that launched seconds before the plasma fire reached her section of the station. She had watched through the small window as her home was destroyed. For 5 years, she had carried the guilt of surviving when so many others had died. She had wondered why she was spared. She had searched for meaning in her survival. Now she walked slowly down the spiral, reading names she had known. Friends from her department. Students from the evening classes she had taught. The family who had lived next door to her apartment. So many names. So many stories that had ended too soon. At the center of the memorial, she stopped and placed a small bouquet of flowers beside the eternal flame. "I hope you can see us," she said quietly. "I hope you know that we did not forget you. I hope you know that the ones who hurt you face justice. And I hope you know that your deaths meant something. Because of you, the galaxy changed. Because of you, humanity found its voice." She stood there for a long time, watching the flame dance in the wind. Above her, in orbit around Veth 4, a human battleship kept constant watch. The station was called Guardian, and it was home to 300 soldiers and support staff. Their job was to make sure that the new colony on the moon was safe. Their job was to make sure that what happened to Evergreen would never happen again. Captain Kevin Brooks, who had been a young communications officer during the Battle of Vethra Prime, commanded the station. He had grown older and wiser in the 5 years since the war. He had learned that protecting the innocent was more important than punishing the guilty. He had learned that strength without mercy was just cruelty by another name. "Sir," his communications officer said one afternoon, "we are receiving a request from a Sindari merchant ship. They are asking permission to dock for supplies." Kevin nodded. "Grant them permission. Standard security procedures. Should I inform them about the memorial services tomorrow?" Kevin thought about it for a moment. "Yes. Tell them they are welcome to attend if they want. All species are welcome." It was a small thing. A tiny gesture of peace in a galaxy that had known so much violence. But Kevin believed that small things mattered. He believed that building trust with other species, one interaction at a time, was more important than winning battles. That was what made humans different. They did not just fight. They also built. They also forgave. They also reached out to those who had once been enemies and offered them a chance to become friends. Not all species accepted that offer. Some still hated humanity. Some still waited for their chance to strike back. But many others were starting to see humans in a new light. They were starting to understand that the young species from Earth was not just powerful. It was also principled. On the surface of Veth 4, the sun was setting behind the mountains. The mining facilities that had been rebuilt after the war hummed with activity. New colonists had come to take the place of those who had been lost. Brave people who refused to let fear decide where humanity could live. Maria Santos watched the sunset from beside the memorial. Flame. The sky turned orange and red and purple, painting the black stone walls with color. It was beautiful in a way that hurt her heart. "We are still here," she said to the names on the walls. "We are still building. We are still dreaming. And we will never stop." She wiped a tear from her cheek and turned to walk back up the spiral. Behind her, the flame continued to burn. 50,000 names stood in eternal silence, watching over the world they had died for. And across the galaxy, humanity continued to grow. Not through conquest, not through fear, but through justice and mercy and an unshakable belief that even in the darkest times, there was always a better way forward. The Council had tried to teach humanity its place. Instead, they had shown humanity its purpose: to protect the weak, to punish the guilty, to remember the fallen, and to build a future where no one would ever have to die simply because they were different. That was the legacy of Evergreen. That was the promise of humanity. And it was a promise they intended to keep forever. The trials were held in Geneva, Switzerland, in a special courthouse that had been built just for this purpose. It was a large building made of white stone and glass, designed to be seen by the entire galaxy. Cameras were set up everywhere. Every species that could receive a signal was invited to watch. Representatives from all the major alien races came to observe. Some came because they were curious. Some came because they were afraid of what might happen if they refused. Some came because they wanted to see if humans really meant what they said about justice. On the first day, President Eleanor Price stood at a podium in front of the assembled delegates. The room was completely full. Thousands of eyes, some human and some alien, watched her every move. What happened at Evergreen was not an act of war, she began. Her voice was strong and clear. It was not the enforcement of any law. It was murder. Cold, planned, deliberate murder. 50,000 innocent people were killed, and their deaths were broadcast across the galaxy like entertainment. She paused and looked around the room. Many of you expected us to respond with violence. Many of you expected us to burn worlds and kill millions to avenge our dead. Some of you even hoped we would, because it would prove that humans are no better than anyone else. Her eyes moved from face to face, human and alien alike. We are not going to give you that satisfaction. Today, we begin something different. Today, we begin real justice. The beings who ordered the massacre will face trial. They will have lawyers to defend them. They will have the chance to present evidence. They will be judged by a fair court. And if they are found guilty, they will face punishment. She straightened her shoulders. But we will not become monsters to punish monsters. We will show the galaxy what humanity stands for. We believe that even the worst criminals deserve a chance to answer for their crimes. We believe in truth. We believe in fairness. And we believe that power without justice is nothing but cruelty. The trials lasted 6 months. 17 council members were charged with crimes against humanity. One by one, they were brought before the court. One by one, the evidence was presented against them. The evidence was overwhelming. The council's own broadcast served as the main proof. Every vote had been recorded. Every speech supporting the massacre had been saved. Every order had been documented. The defendants could not deny what they had done because the entire galaxy had watched them do it. Some of the defendants tried to claim they were just following orders. The court rejected this defense. Some tried to claim they did not know the massacre would actually happen. The court showed recordings of their speeches calling for the destruction of the human colony. Some tried to claim that humans were not really people, and therefore killing them was not really murder. The court simply moved on to the next piece of evidence. The families of the victims came to testify. Day after day, week after week, they told their stories. A father talked about his daughter, who had dreamed of becoming a doctor. A wife talked about her husband, who had worked double shifts to save money for their future. A teacher talked about her students who had been excited to learn about the stars. Each story was different, but they all ended the same way. With fire and screams and silence. Luis Ortega sat in the courtroom gallery every day. Danny Webb sat beside him, along with many other soldiers who had fought to capture the defendants. They listened to the testimony. They watched the evidence. And they waited for justice. "Do you think this is worth it?" Danny asked one afternoon during a break. "All this talking and waiting. They killed our people. We should have just executed them when we caught them." Luis shook his head. "That is not who we are. If we start killing prisoners, we become no better than they are. We have to prove that we believe in something more than revenge. But will they even understand? These aliens have been doing things their way for thousands of years. Do they even know what justice means? Maybe not yet, but they are watching. The whole galaxy is watching. And when this is over, they will know that humans keep their word. We said we would give them fair trials. We are giving them fair trials. That means something. The final defendant to face judgment was Krelvosh himself. He had refused to accept the lawyer. He had refused to present any defense. He had refused to show any sign of regret for what he had done. When the judge asked if he had any final words, he stood up slowly and looked around the courtroom with contempt. "You cannot judge me," he said. His translated voice was cold and hard. "I am Zorath. My people were building empires when your species was still crawling in the mud. This entire trial is a joke." Chief Justice Margaret Sullivan, a woman with gray hair and calm eyes, looked at him steadily. "Krelvosh, you have been found guilty of ordering the deaths of 50,000 civilians. You planned the massacre. You gave the orders. You watched it happen and called it a lesson." "They were humans," Krelvosh replied. "They were nothing. They are still nothing. You may have won a battle, but you will never be our equals. You will always be insects pretending to be important." Justice Sullivan did not react to his insults. "The evidence shows that you acted with full knowledge of what would happen. You showed no mercy to the innocent. You offered no chance for escape. You murdered children to make a political point." "I would do it again," Krelvosh said. "I would do it 1,000 times." "The sentence is death," Justice Sullivan announced. "The sentence will be carried out in 30 days. Krelvosh laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Kill me if you want. It changes nothing. The galaxy will forget about your pathetic species within a generation. You are temporary. You are meaningless. You are nothing. Take him away." Justice Sullivan ordered Dot as Krelvosh was led from the courtroom. He passed by the gallery where Louise and Danny were sitting. For a moment, his eyes met Luce's eyes. There was no fear in the alien's gaze, only hatred and arrogance. Luce did not look away. He did not say anything. He simply watched as the being who had ordered the death of 50,000 humans was taken to his cell to await execution. That evening, President Eleanor Price held a press conference. The whole world was watching. "Today, the trials ended," she said. "Justice has been served. But I want to make something very clear. We did not do this for revenge. We did not do this to prove we are powerful. We did this because it was right." She took a deep breath. "The people of Evergreen deserve to have their deaths answered. Their families deserve to see the murderers face judgment. And the galaxy deserved to see that humanity stands for something more than violence." A reporter raised her hand. "Madam President, what happens now? How does Earth move forward?" Eleanor thought about the question for a moment before answering. "We build. We grow. We remember those we lost. And we make sure this never happens again. Not to us. Not to anyone. The Galactic Council thought they could teach us our place. Instead, they taught us our purpose. Humanity will protect the innocent. We will stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. And we will never again allow the powerful to slaughter the weak without consequence." She looked directly into the camera. "That is our promise to the galaxy. That is our promise to our children. And that is our promise to the 50,000 souls who died on Evergreen. We remember you. We honor you. And we will never forget."